The bus left Denver just after 9 in the morning. It was a chilly April day, the kind where the clouds hang low and the wind smells like thawing soil. We were supposed to reach Omaha by dinner time. I remember because I had a sandwich packed, a turkey and Swiss from a place near Union Station. I'd planned to eat it crossing the Nebraska line, right around lunch. I was in seat 21, window side, just behind the rear exit. Not the best spot, but I liked having a view of the road unfurling behind us. Watching things fall away always felt safer than staring at what was coming. The bus was half full when we pulled out, mostly quiet folks, older women, a guy in a camo jacket with a duffel full of something heavy, a couple teenagers curled around each other like hibernating animals. I was heading to Omaha for my sister's baby shower. She was due in May, her first kid. I'd promised her I'd be there early to help with the setup, the balloons and streamers and the dumb little finger sandwiches she always insisted on. We stopped in Fort Morgan to pick up 2 more passengers. The first was a young woman in a long coat with a baby strapped to her chest. The second was him. He climbed on slow, like his legs were heavy. Hoodie pulled low, jaw covered in patchy stubble. He handed the driver a folded printout and muttered something. I only noticed him because of the way the driver paused when he looked at the paper. Just for a second, nothing dramatic. But his eyes flicked to the man's ankle before he waved him in. He sat across from me, aisle side in 22. Didn't say a word, not even when the driver made a crack about the bathroom always breaking on Thursdays. His hands never stopped moving, tapping his knees, adjusting his sleeves, cracking his knuckles. His jeans were too clean, like new from Walmart. His sneakers were stained with something red-brown, maybe clay. We were 30 minutes out of Fort Morgan when I first heard the beeping. Soft at first, just a slow pulse. Beep, beep. The guy stiffened, reached down and tugged at his pant leg. I saw it then. Black box strapped to his ankle, blinking red. The woman with the baby turned in her seat. Someone near the front asked what the noise was. The guy didn't answer, just stared straight ahead like if he didn't look at anyone, they wouldn't look back. Then the driver's radio crackled. Unit 08, continue east. Do not stop. I repeat, do not stop. The voice was hard, clipped. Not a dispatcher, not police. The driver picked up the mic. What's going on? We've got some kind of... Passenger on board is federal custody. Unit compromised. Keep moving. Do not stop under any circumstances. There was silence. Everyone turned around by then. The guy, ankle monitor guy, was sitting frozen, breathing hard. The beeping got louder, faster. Beep, beep, beep. The driver's knuckles went white on the wheel. He didn't say anything, just kept his eyes on the road and nudged us a little faster down the 2-lane highway. I leaned forward. Hey man, I said low, just to him. You okay? He looked at me like I was made of glass. Not afraid, not angry, just transparent. They're not here for you, he said. That was the first time I got scared. I twisted in my seat and looked out the back window. A black SUV was trailing behind us, maybe a few car lengths back. Then another slid in behind it. Unmarked, both of them. Dark windows, moving steady. A murmur started on the bus. The driver picked up speed, pushing 65, then 70. We were cutting through open country now. Flat land, dried winter grass, the occasional silo or old barn leaning in the distance. Beep, beep, beep. The man clamped his hands over his ears like he could make the noise go away. They weren't supposed to find me, he whispered. What's happening? Someone shouted. Shut up, barked a man up front. The driver's radio clicked again. They've made you. 2 vehicles confirmed. Possible third approaching from South Access Road. Maintain route. Jesus Christ, the driver said. The man beside me finally moved. He stood up, too fast, and stumbled into the aisle. The bus swerved slightly. He braced himself on the seats, the monitor blinking like a dying heart. They'll try to box us in, he said, talking more to himself than anyone else. They don't want me back in court. What does that mean? I asked. But before he could answer, one of the SUVs behind us gunned its engine. We all heard it, deep and throaty, like a predator clearing its throat. It swerved into the left lane, coming up fast. "Brace!" the driver yelled. The SUV slammed into us, rear passenger side, hard enough to jolt half the bus into the air. The woman with the baby screamed. Someone hit the floor. The bus fishtailed, tires shrieking against asphalt. The driver fought the wheel, shouting curses, keeping us from tipping. The guy with the monitor was thrown into my lap. I caught him without thinking. "I didn't flip," the driver growled. "You son of a bitch, I didn't flip." The bus steadied. We kept moving. The SUV dropped back again, engine rumbling like thunder. "Who are they?" I asked him, my voice shaking. "Cartel?" He didn't nod. He didn't need to. "Witness?" I asked. He gave me a tight smile, full of blood. "I used to run guns for them, switched sides when they killed my brother. And they don't want you testifying." He looked me in the eye. "They're not going to stop." Radio crackle. "Highway patrol 5 minutes out. Do not stop before then." We passed an old gas station, boarded up, rusted sign flapping in the wind. The third vehicle joined then. Another SUV, this one with Colorado plates. The guy lunged toward the front of the bus. "Stop the bus," he yelled. "Let them take me, just stop." The driver didn't even look at him. "They'll kill us all." People started panicking, screaming. A man tried to yank open the emergency exit, but it was locked tight. Someone else tried the back door. Nothing. "Just keep it together," the driver yelled. "Help's coming." "Too late," said the man beside me. The SUVs surged forward. One pulled alongside us, trying to push into the lane. A window rolled down. A man leaned out with a pistol. Time slowed. I ducked. The shot cracked, splintered glass flying over us. Someone screamed. The driver swerved left, nearly clipping the shoulder, but kept us upright. I didn't think. I moved. I grabbed the ankle monitor guy by the collar and dragged him to the floor as more bullets hit the side of the bus. Screams echoed. The sound of the road roared under us. I pressed him down, using my body to shield him. His heart was jackhammering under my hands. Then, sirens. Not one or two. A chorus. Dozens. Red and blue lights flared over the hills. Squad cars, marked units, trucks. They came from all directions, converging on the highway like blood in water. The SUVs peeled off, tires shrieking. One hit the ditch and kept going. The other turned onto a service road and vanished into the dust. The last veered too late, got clipped by a sheriff's truck, flipped once, and landed upside down in the field. We kept moving for another mile before the driver pulled over. He collapsed over the wheel, sobbing. Just once. Then straightened up. Federal agents stormed the bus, guns drawn. They pulled the man away from me. I sat back, hands shaking, heart trying to crack my ribs. I don't remember what I told them. My name, maybe. That I was going to Omaha. That I just wanted to see my sister. They cleared us one by one. Paramedics checked the woman with the baby. She was fine. Shaken, but fine. 2 people had cuts. One guy had a dislocated shoulder. No one died. They said the man beside me was a protected witness. Key testimony in a case against a cartel lieutenant operating out of Pueblo. They moved him to a black van, then he was gone. We waited 3 hours before they let the bus continue. A different driver, a different silence. No one said a word the rest of the ride. I got to Omaha after dark. My sister hugged me, asked why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I just told her the road was long, and I was starving. I ate my sandwich cold. We were already 4 tequila shots deep by the time the party bus merged onto the northbound ramp of US 93 leaving the glitter and chaos of the Vegas Strip behind us. It was sometime after 11 on a Thursday night. I remember that because Thirsty Thursday was trending hard on every app, and half the people on that bus were posting about it. I wasn't supposed to be there. My cousin Leo was the one who got invited. He does club promotions, pushes brands on TikTok, all that. But he had to cancel last minute because his girl caught him texting someone, so he threw me the invite and said, "Just go, bro. Free booze, hot people, and you might get followers." I had maybe 400 followers total, mostly high school friends and old coworkers. I went anyway. The bus was custom, black exterior, tinted windows, strobes inside bouncing off a mirrored ceiling, and bench seating wrapped around a cooler that looked more like a coffin filled with ice and bottles. There were 13 of us total. I only remember a few names clearly. Kenzie, who had 500,000 followers, and a voice like sugar glass. Dom, whose chain hung lower than his IQ. And Javi, the driver, who had a buzz cut and a twitchy right eye. He didn't talk much but kept one hand on the wheel and the other near a little red switch on the dash. "What's that switch for?" I asked when I first climbed aboard. "Stream control," Javi said, deadpan. "Just in case things go sideways." He meant the cameras. There were 4, 2 in the ceiling, 1 by the cooler, 1 mounted just above the windshield facing us. They streamed everything straight to the app, and the chat was already crawling with viewers. An AI mod monitored the feed, blurring faces when needed, filtering slurs, but most of the real power belonged to the viewers. Kenzie introduced the night's gimmick right after we crossed out of city limits. She stood in the aisle, glitter on her cheeks catching every passing headlight. "All right, kings and queens," she purred into her phone. "Y'all know the drill. Every 15 minutes we let the stream raise the stakes. Majority vote decides the dare. No backing out. You do it, or you're off the bus. Dead ass." Everyone cheered. I smiled like I got the joke, but my stomach twisted a little. The bus was moving fast, nowhere to go but forward, and I'd just agreed to a live game decided by strangers staring at screens. The first dare was tame. Swap outfits with the person next to you. I ended up in Dom's oversized Lakers jersey, and he in my thrift store button-down, both of us laughing as we stumbled over each other's clothes. It felt harmless, fun even. The chat exploded with laughing emojis and flame reactions. Then came the second dare. Open the emergency hatch on the roof and climb halfway out while the bus was moving. Kenzie volunteered. Javi didn't even flinch, just slowed a little and gave her the nod. She pulled herself up through the hatch, wind whipping her hair into chaos, and screamed, "Let's fucking go!" into the dark. That's when I should have asked to be let off. But I didn't. Each dare after that nudged the boundary. Chug an entire bottle of Fireball. Flash the next passing car. Lick the bus floor. Slap a stranger. The chat loved it. Viewers poured in by the thousands. A counter in the corner of the windshield ticked upward with every vote, glowing green. Around 1 in the morning, Dom hit a wall. Not literally, just mentally. The dare was to throw your phone out the window. "No way," he said. "That's like my job. My whole life's on that thing." Kenzie didn't flinch. "Then you're off." Javi pulled over onto the shoulder. Dust kicked up around us. We watched Dom stand there in the headlights for a long second, flipping us off with both hands as we drove away. No one spoke after that. Not for a while. There were 8 of us left when the votes got darker. The chat wasn't just laughing anymore. It was hungry. The AI mod couldn't stop the momentum. Every dare felt like a knife slowly turning. "Next up," Kenzie read, scrolling her screen. "Hold someone at knife point for 1 full minute." Everyone hesitated. "Not real," someone mumbled. "It's a prop, right?" Kenzie held up a blade. Not a fake one. 8 inches, serrated edge, the kind you keep in a tackle box or a glove compartment for emergencies. She handed it to a girl named Mina, who didn't even blink. Picked the smallest guy, Ethan, maybe 20, rail thin, and pressed the blade to his throat as he stood stiff in the aisle. "60 seconds," she said. He cried, not sobbing, just wet, stuttering breaths, like his body didn't understand this was entertainment. The timer ran out. She dropped the knife. Everyone clapped. Javi didn't stop the bus. I tried to get a read on him. He was tense now, hands gripping the wheel too tight, right eye twitching faster. His red switch glowed faintly. Maybe it meant the cameras were live. Maybe it meant something worse. Around 2:30, the bus hit a stretch of highway between Henderson and the desert cuts. No lights, no exits for miles. The stream hit a peak. Over 60,000 live viewers. The dare came in like a lightning strike. Take control of the bus, lock the doors, someone plays hostage, someone plays hero. Viewers vote the ending. Kenzie read it twice, like maybe we'd misheard. We hadn't. The bus doors hissed and sealed with a click. Javi stood up. "I'm not part of this," he said. "Not anymore." Then he walked straight to the back of the bus and sat down. Nobody stopped him. He just left the wheel spinning. Kenzie grabbed the knife again. "Who's hostage?" she asked. I didn't speak fast enough. They pulled me up by my collar, pressed me to the floor. My cheek hit the sticky vinyl. Something hot surged behind my ribs. Fear or shame, maybe both. I felt the blade against my back, and someone whisper laughed. "Don't flinch, it's part of the show." The bus veered slightly, tires humming against the painted lines. The hero was some guy named Cal, broad-shouldered and grinning like he'd just won a prize fight. "Chill," he said, crouching beside me. "It's for the stream. You'll be famous." Kenzie handed him something. A fake gun, I hoped. I never saw it. I just felt it jab into the side of my head. "Scene starts now," she said. "1 minute. Vote when you're ready." The cameras whirred. The stream timer ticked. That's when Javi stood up again. He moved fast. Too fast. Punched the red switch on the dash. All the interior lights snapped off. The windshield blacked out. Then he lunged for the emergency brake and pulled it hard. The tires screamed. I slammed into the aisle bench. The girl with the knife tumbled past me. Cal went flying into the cooler, cracking it open like a tomb. Bottles shattered. People screamed. The bus swerved once, hard, then skidded into the gravel on the shoulder. Dust enveloped us like smoke. Somewhere behind me, someone was bleeding. I heard sobs, coughing. No laughter this time. Javi stood in the center of the bus, chest heaving. "Show's over," he said. "Now get the fuck out." No one moved at first. The stream had died. Black screen. No chat. No votes. Kenzie's phone dangled from her hand. Cracked. I watched her lips tremble. Not for the camera. For real. I climbed out first. Knees scraped. Hands shaking. The desert night hit me like a slap. Cold and wide open. Javi stayed on the bus. The others followed one by one, dazed and silent. No one spoke for a long time, not even when we flagged down a trooper on patrol half an hour later. They tried to cover it up, said it was performance art gone wrong, said no one was hurt, no crimes committed. But we all knew. The story didn't vanish. It echoed. Sometimes late at night I open the app and see new streams pop up. Different faces, same rules. The dares start light. They always do. Then someone whispers, "Raise the stakes." And I shut it off. Every time. The morning it all began, I was under the rear axle of a bus parked in Bay 3 at the Shoemaker Terminal in Detroit, counting the slow drips of transmission fluid onto my forehead. I'm 48 years old, been a city bus mechanic for 22 of those, and even now I'll take transmission fluid over some of the other things I've had leak on me. It was cold. Not winter cold, but that kind of gritty, damp cold that settles into your bones and doesn't leave, the kind Detroit likes to throw at you in early April. You get numb fingers, you get short tempers, and you get busted buses with overdue maintenance tickets. At 6:30 that morning, I was working solo on Unit 7183, one of the newer models. Hybrid diesel-electric. Flashy tech, too sensitive for its own good. I was checking the data from the OBD system because the onboard diagnostics had flagged some error in the braking relay. Nothing too serious, yet. The kind of glitch that gets you written up if it leads to something bigger. I didn't notice the fare reader problem until later. Shoemaker handles dozens of buses overnight. It's one of the oldest depots still in use, and you can tell. Grimy walls, cracked concrete, that ever-present buzz of fluorescent lights that always seem a second away from flickering out. There's a vending machine by the mechanic's break room that hasn't worked right since COVID, and the coffee is worse than the oil we drain from the crankcases. Anyway, around 7:15, Marcus, one of the morning shift techs, came limping in. He'd busted his ankle 3 weeks ago, but was back too soon, trying to impress the higher-ups. Said one of the drivers, Jody, I think, was having trouble with the fare reader on her route. It wasn't scanning the smart cards properly, just freezing up or restarting in a loop. That's where things started to get weird. I headed over to Unit 7219, where Jody was waiting outside with a lukewarm coffee and that tight, no-nonsense look she always had. She said the reader just locked up halfway through her first loop around Lafayette and Trumbull. First few passengers scanned in fine, then one card beeped, and everything froze. Couldn't reboot it. Just call it, I said. She'd already tried, of course. Got the usual. Turn it off and back on, ma'am. Didn't work. I climbed aboard and got behind the reader. Looked normal. LED was green, touchscreen responsive, but it wouldn't scan my ID badge. Locked me out. The reader just blinked at me like I'd done something wrong. I popped the panel and connected my tablet. What I saw didn't make sense. There was code running that didn't belong there. A third-party process looping under the official fare software. It was disguised well, buried deep, but it was running, logging, pinging. I'm no IT guy, but I know enough to recognize malware when I see it. I flagged it and notified HQ. They told me to log it and pull the unit for now. Fine. I did. But something about it stayed with me. That night I stayed late. Brought my own equipment in, booted up the firmware on a test reader we kept in the back, slid in one of the smart fare cards we'd confiscated from a kid last week who'd been riding free for months. One of those slick counterfeit ones you see sometimes. Good enough to fool a reader, not good enough to fool a human eye. The second I scanned it, my laptop went nuts. Firewall alerts. The fare reader's firmware started rewriting itself, pinging an external IP address somewhere offshore. Then, and this scared me, it accessed the vehicle control subsystem, brake management, door actuators, acceleration limits. These systems weren't supposed to be connected like that. I thought they were air-gapped. Turns out that wasn't true anymore. The newer models, like the hybrids, had integrated systems for efficiency. One port for diagnostics, one system to update. It saved time. But someone had figured out how to slip in through the fare reader, like a Trojan horse, and take over more than just who rides for free. I reported it, marked it critical, told them to pull all buses with compromised readers until we figured it out. It thanked me, said they'd escalate. No one pulled any buses. The next morning, I arrived at 5:45. That same chill was in the air. Something was off. The place was too quiet. Bay doors creaked open, and buses began rolling out before the sun even came up. I saw Unit 7183, the one I'd been working on, already loaded and pulling out into the lot. That was wrong. It hadn't been cleared. I jogged toward the lot, waving, yelling for the driver to stop, but the driver didn't even look at me. It was someone I didn't recognize. Not one of ours. That's when I saw the other readers light up. Not just one, all of them. A dozen buses on morning route, lights blinking like slot machines. Green, then red, then all off. Then the comms died. I ran into dispatch. Phones were lit up. Operators panicking. Calls from drivers stuck in buses. Doors wouldn't open. Brakes weren't responding. Some of them were mid-route, downtown. I heard one driver screaming through static that her doors had locked mid-stop on Michigan Avenue and a passenger was trying to kick out a window. I tried to call the city, tried to reach fleet security. No one picked up. The city's grid was running on a Tuesday morning schedule. Kids heading to school, workers packed in tight on public transit, and someone had activated the exploit. It wasn't random. The malware was being controlled, timed. A screen in the control room blinked on. Not a system alert, just text, filling the screen, one line at a time. You don't deserve to run this city. You don't deserve to ride for free. Let them walk. Dispatch shut the monitors down, killed the network. It was too late. I had to act. I knew that reader code. I'd pulled it apart the night before. I had a debug stick in my locker, a USB drive I'd used to isolate the rogue software. It wasn't much, but it might be enough to reboot the system long enough to override. I grabbed the keys to Unit 7261, which hadn't been dispatched yet, and took off. The streets were chaos, people spilling onto the sidewalks, buses stalled mid-intersection, sirens in the distance. I headed toward Lafayette Park, where I knew several buses looped during rush hour. I found one, Unit 7219, parked at an angle near the Chrysler Elementary stop. Kids inside. Driver slumped at the wheel, unconscious or worse. Doors sealed. I smashed the access panel with a wrench and climbed in through the emergency hatch on the roof. Inside, it was hot and smelled like fear. I could hear the whine of the electric motor fighting itself, trying to brake, trying to move. The whole vehicle trembled. I forced the maintenance terminal open, jammed the debug stick into the port. The screen flickered, stalled. 30 seconds. I watched lines of code scroll. I don't know if I prayed, but I think I might have. Then I heard the soft click of the doors unlocking. I turned and shouted, "Out! Go!" The kids didn't wait. They spilled out, followed by the driver, pale and shaking. I told her to get clear, then ran to the next bus. It took me 6 hours to reach all the units I could. Police finally caught on around 11. The whole city was in gridlock by then. Turns out it was one guy, a former transit contractor, fired 2 years ago after trying to report security flaws no one listened to. Disappeared. He'd been embedding the code in fake SmartFare cards ever since, selling them cheap online. He built a kill switch into each one. Waited. He almost got away with it. They found him 2 days later, dead in a motel room off 8 Mile. Pills and a bottle of something strong. Laptop beside him, still open. Final message scrawled across the screen. I just wanted them to fix it. I go back to work every day. Different buses, different readers. They say it's safe now, that we've hardened the system. They even promoted me. But every time I scan my badge into a reader, I wonder if the light will stay green or go red. We left Port Authority at 11:05, right on schedule. I'd been one of the first to board, snagging a window seat on the upper level of the double-decker megabus. Seat 22. I remember because I'd requested it specifically. Not too close to the bathroom, not near the stairs, and far enough from the front to avoid being cooked by the sun during the day. It was a late October Thursday. Cool, but not cold yet. The kind of night where your hoodie's enough if you zip it up all the way. New York had been rainy, slick sidewalks reflecting traffic lights, but the weather app promised clear skies all the way to Charlotte. It was supposed to be a straightforward 12-hour ride, no transfers, a cheap solution for people like me, broke, between jobs, and tired of couch hopping in the city. The crowd was the usual mix. College kids heading home for a weekend, older folks trying to save a buck, a few fidgety loners who kept to themselves. One guy a few rows behind me talked to himself under his breath. He'd boarded with a gas station bag full of Cheez-Its and orange soda and hadn't stopped chewing since. I had headphones in, a podcast murmuring low in my ears, more to dull the background noise than for any real interest. It was past midnight by the time we cleared Newark. I leaned my head against the cool glass and drifted in and out. Somewhere in Delaware, we stopped briefly for a bathroom break, and by the time we were rolling again, most of the bus was asleep. Around 3 in the morning, we were in Virginia. Trees, shadows, and more trees. My phone had no signal. I woke up from a jolt, the kind that comes from a sudden shift in momentum, and saw the driver up ahead in the mirror, fiddling with a radio receiver and muttering to himself. The main interstate was closed, something about a bridge collapse. He didn't seem panicked, just irritated, like someone who'd been through this before. He took a detour down a narrower road, and the bus lurched slightly as the pavement shifted beneath us. We slowed down, then slowed more. The overhead lights flickered once, then went out completely. "Just the motion sensor," someone said behind me, trying to be helpful. But they didn't come back on. The road twisted through thick woods. I could see trees pressing in on either side, so close they nearly brushed the windows. The kind of road you wouldn't even take a pickup down unless you knew it like the back of your hand. "Where the hell are we?" a girl across the aisle whispered. She was maybe 19, wrapped in a fuzzy blanket patterned with stars, eyes wide behind thick glasses. No one answered. We passed under a trestle, low and rusted, the clearance sign barely visible in our headlights. The roof scraped against it, metal on metal, loud. Everyone jolted awake. Someone up front stood and walked down to the driver. "Hey man, maybe we should turn around." "I can't," the driver said. "This road doesn't have space to reverse this thing." "But we can't keep going like this." The driver ignored him. 10 minutes later, we reached another trestle. This one was even lower. We slowed to a crawl, the roof groaning again, and I could feel the whole bus shudder as we barely cleared it. It got quiet. No engine hum, no AC whirring, just the sound of woods and the faint ring in your ears when everything else cuts out. Then the first tree fell. It came down hard, right behind the rear axle, with a crack like lightning. Everyone jumped. The driver hit the brakes. Red taillights glared off the bark of the fallen tree, now lying across the road behind us like a barricade. A guy in a neon windbreaker said what we were all thinking. That wasn't random. Before anyone could respond, another tree dropped, this time in front of us. Slower, but just as deliberate. I saw it in the headlights as it leaned, swayed, then tipped over. Clean. Controlled. Like someone knew exactly where to cut. We were boxed in. People started yelling. The driver stood up, face pale in the emergency lights. "Everyone stay calm. I'll call this in." He stepped outside, slamming the folding door shut behind him. We watched him walk toward the front tree. He took a flashlight from his pocket and shined it into the woods. I saw them first. 4 figures. No masks, just work clothes. Flannel, denim, boots. One carried a chainsaw. Another had a bolt cutter. They didn't run. They didn't even look rushed. They stood at the edge of the tree line and stared at us. The driver turned slowly, backing away, mouth moving but no sound coming out. Then he bolted back toward the bus. He didn't make it. One of them stepped out, calm as anything, and swung something, a heavy dark tool, maybe a pipe or a pry bar. The driver dropped like a sack of flour. No one screamed, but it was worse than screaming. The bus filled with silence that rang so loud it hurt. Panic cracked the group in half. People shoved to the lower level, trying to escape through the emergency hatch in the back. It didn't open. The trees were too close. We were pinned. The girl with the star blanket was sobbing quietly. "Why would someone do this?" she whispered. "They want something," someone else said. "Money, probably." But none of them approached. They didn't demand anything. They just stood there, watching, like we were animals in a cage. Cheez-It guy lost it. He sprinted down the stairs and threw himself at the front door, tried to pry it open with his hands. Another man helped him, a father with a baby in a sling. The door finally creaked open, and Cheez-It Guy rushed out. We heard the scuffle, brief and brutal. Then silence. The door remained ajar, just slightly. That father didn't go back to his seat. He stood there, one hand on the door, eyes scanning the dark. I stood too. "We need to stay together," I said, not even knowing why I said it, just needing to fill the air. "We need to get off this bus," he answered. "They're not coming to rob us. They're waiting us out." He was right. They didn't move. They didn't speak. Just watched. The man with the baby finally made a decision. He wrapped the baby tighter against his chest and opened the door fully. "They're not going to kill a baby," he said. I wanted to believe him. He stepped outside. I followed. We made it 5 feet. Then I saw them again. Closer now. One held a crowbar with a curve worn smooth by use. Another had a two-way radio clipped to his vest. Organized. Not just random psychos. This was planned. I raised my hands. "We'll go. We don't want trouble. Just let us leave." No response. But they didn't move either. The father took another step forward. "We've got a baby here," he said, his voice shaking. And that did it. One of them, the tallest, finally spoke. "Back in the bus." His voice was low, like gravel and smoke. He raised a finger and pointed. The father hesitated. That's when the radio guy lifted something from his pocket. A flare. He struck it, and it burst into harsh red light. He tossed it under the bus. Smoke filled the lower level almost immediately. People started coughing. The girl with the blanket screamed. I ducked back inside, grabbing her arm. She clutched my hand so tight I thought it would bruise. The father didn't come back. The bus filled with smoke, panic, and sobbing. I dragged the girl upstairs, and we opened the emergency hatch in the ceiling. The air was cleaner up top. Cold night. Stars sharp above us. We climbed out. Me first, then her. We crouched on the roof, scanning the woods. Stillness. I could smell pine and gasoline. Then movement. A path, narrow but clear, cut into the trees on the right. A work light flickered there, probably left from their setup. It was our only chance. "We run," I told her. She nodded. Didn't speak. We jumped. My ankle rolled but didn't break. I pulled her up and we ran, ducking into the tree line, scrambling over roots and brush, heart pounding so hard I couldn't hear anything else. We didn't stop for half an hour. Not until we reached an old fence line, rusted wire and half-rotted posts. Beyond it, an overgrown trail. There was a barn at the end of it, empty but dry. We collapsed there, lungs on fire. We heard the sirens just before dawn. They found the bus, found the bodies, found the baby, left untouched in his carrier on the side of the road. They didn't find the men. I gave my statement. So did the girl. They told us it was likely a splinter group, anti-government militia, armed survivalists, some garbage like that. Doesn't matter. I don't ride buses anymore. I don't sleep near windows. And every time I see a flare or hear a chainsaw, I feel my chest tighten like it's happening all over again. But I lived. I got out. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday. I had my usual routine, coffee at Trouble on 22nd, earbuds in, scrolling mindlessly through headlines while waiting for the number 30 trolley bus to crawl up Potrero Avenue. My office was in the financial district, and I worked in IT support for a startup that burned through project managers like kindling. I didn't love it, but it paid the rent on my shoebox apartment in the Mission. Rent I could barely afford since they'd hiked my share last spring. I caught the trolley at 18th and Potrero, like always. The air was cold and damp, a typical late summer morning in San Francisco. The fog sat low, making the street lamps glow like candles, The electric lines overhead hummed softly. I climbed aboard and flashed my Clipper card at the reader, though no one was watching. The bus was half full. A couple of tech kids in hoodies, a woman with a bag of cleaning supplies, and a guy in scrubs already asleep near the back. The driver, an older woman with a blunt-cut bob and mirrored shades, gave me a bored nod. Her name tag read Pamela. She was always quiet but steady, never jerked the brakes like some of the younger ones. I slid into my usual seat, 3 rows from the front on the left side. I liked having a clear view of the street. I pulled my hoodie up and rested my head against the cool glass. We passed through the Tenderloin and into Soma, where the new condos were popping up like mushrooms. Traffic was light, the bus humming steadily along its route, weaving through Market Street. I didn't notice anything was off until we hit 4th. That's when the bus stopped. Hard. Not at a light, not at a designated stop. Just braked in the middle of the intersection, jerking everyone forward. Someone cursed. A thermos hit the floor with a metallic clang. Pamela stood up. She turned slowly, removing her sunglasses. Her face looked tight, almost apologetic. But she didn't say anything. She just raised her hands slightly, palms up. Then a man stood up from one of the front seats. He'd been sitting quietly, slouched down in a black hoodie with the strings drawn tight around his face. I'd barely noticed him before. Now he stepped into the aisle with a slow, deliberate motion. He had something in his hands. At first I thought it was a crowbar. It wasn't. It was one of those emergency hammers, the kind you use to break windows. The red kind mounted near exit doors. Except this one had a handle wrapped in duct tape, like a makeshift grip. He held it out like a baton, tapping it softly against his thigh. Another guy stood up from the back, then a woman near the middle. All of them dressed similarly, plain hoodies, jeans, baseball caps pulled low, each of them holding one of those hammers. 3 of them, one at the front, one in the middle, and one near the back door. We were boxed in. "No one's gonna get hurt," the man at the front said, his voice calm. "Long as everyone stays seated and keeps their hands visible." People looked around, confused. No one screamed. No one ran. Not yet. We were too stunned. "We're not criminals," he went on. "We're workers. We're tired of being invisible, and we're tired of paying to be exploited." Pamela, the driver, stepped off the platform and moved aside, not resisting. That was when I understood. She was part of it. They sealed the doors. I didn't see how exactly, but I heard the welding torch. That sick hiss of metal meeting flame. One of them, maybe the woman, started at the rear, jamming the doors with some kind of tool, welding them shut. You could smell it. That scorched chemical stink of burning plastic and steel. Panic started to build. "Hey, what the hell is this?" a man shouted. "What are you doing? Let us out." "No one's getting out," the guy with the hammer said. "Not yet, but this won't take long." He pulled a phone from his pocket and held it up. "We're streaming now," he said. "Live. Full transparency." I craned my neck and saw the screen. He had some kind of live stream running. Comments were already pouring in, some laughing emojis, others calling him a hero, a few calling him a lunatic. "We're here to talk about justice," he said, facing the phone like a camera. "About how the city raised transit fares again while slashing driver pay. About how every one of us in this bus has to hustle 10 gigs a week just to make rent." People were whispering, shifting in their seats. I heard someone sob. The guy in scrubs had woken up and was trying to call someone on his phone, but there was no signal. I checked mine. Same. No bars. The windows were fogging up. Pamela climbed back into the driver's seat and started driving again. Only now, we weren't en route. We veered off 5th, cut across Bryant, and headed toward the freeway. That's when the cold sweat started down my back. They were taking us toward the Bay Bridge. It felt like we were in a movie. I kept expecting sirens, helicopters, something. But nothing happened. Just the hum of tires, the occasional shout, the city sliding past the windows. The guy near the back was pacing now, muttering to himself. I watched as he pulled a printed sheet from his hoodie pocket. He started reading into his phone, listing demands like a manifesto. Freeze fare hikes, health care for contract workers, citywide moratorium on gig layoffs. It was detailed, calculated. Not a single mention of us. The passengers. They weren't here for us. We were props, hostages, a message on wheels. We hit the on-ramp at Essex. The incline rose sharply, pulling my stomach with it. I could see the curve of the Bay Bridge ahead, its white pylons standing against the thick fog like ribs of some sleeping animal. The woman with the torch, blonde ponytail, tattoos down her arms, welded the last door shut and looked satisfied. She nodded to the man at the front. "We're locked," she said. I tried to stay calm, tried to breathe, but something inside me was coiling tighter with every mile. We passed the metering lights, onto the bridge. The man, he said his name was Anthony, stood in the center aisle now, facing us all. "Let me be clear," he said. "We're not looking to hurt anyone, but we need the city to listen. We need viewers. We need attention." Pamela drove slowly, lane by lane, until we reached the first pylon tower. Then she stopped. He turned the phone to face the front windshield. "Unless our demands are met, and this stream goes viral in the next 15 minutes, we will crash this vehicle into the support tower. This isn't a bluff." That was when people started screaming. Not everyone, not all at once, but enough. One woman stood and tried to pry open the window, only to be slammed back into her seat by the guy near the back. I froze. Not because I was brave, but because I realized something they hadn't accounted for. Pamela was driving, but she wasn't in control. The bridge had cameras. The trolley system had GPS tracking. There was no way this hadn't already triggered alarms. The only explanation was that someone up the chain was hesitating, watching, waiting. And in that space, those silent, held-breath minutes, I made a choice. I shifted slightly in my seat, just enough to ease my bag onto my lap. Inside, I had a laptop, charger, a pocket knife I'd forgotten to take out last time I flew. I unzipped slowly, careful not to draw attention. They were focused on the stream, on the views, on the comments. They wanted an audience more than a body count. That was their weakness. The guy near me, the one pacing, had stopped to reread the demands. He was near the emergency hatch above the rear seats. I saw it, saw the bolt handle, saw the screws holding it shut, and I made my move. I waited until he turned. Then I lunged. I jammed the knife into his leg, not deep, not lethal, just enough to make him buckle. He screamed. That was enough chaos. Someone else jumped up. 2 people started pounding on the windows. Pamela turned in her seat, shouting. I grabbed the hammer from the guy I'd stabbed, and I threw it. Not at a person, at the front windshield. The glass cracked, but didn't break. But the message was clear. Things had changed. I didn't care if I died. I wasn't going to die sitting down. It unraveled fast after that. The driver swerved. People fought. Someone tackled the woman with the torch. There was blood. Real blood. But it was messy, confused. Not the clean violence of a crash. By the time CHP caught up with us, halfway across the bridge, the bus was crawling at 5 miles per hour, swerving from lane to lane. They pulled us over with 2 cruisers and a spike strip. The suspects were arrested. Pamela cried. I saw her face as they cuffed her. Not angry, broken, like she'd really believed it would work. I still ride the bus. Not that one. They decommissioned it. I take the 33 now. Same route, just a few blocks different. I keep my bag on my lap, keep my eyes open. Sometimes I see people watching me. I went viral briefly. Someone had caught a grainy video of me wrestling the hammer away. There were hashtags. Interviews I declined. They called me a hero, but all I did was stand up, because nobody else did. We left Lafayette High just after dawn, the charter idling in the staff parking lot while Coach Miller paced beside the open doors, checking off names on his clipboard with the same narrowed squint he used from the bench during games. It was a Sunday, no traffic, skies clear, and we were headed southeast for a regional tournament in Homa. Spirits were high. The season was almost over, and for the first time in years, the Bulldogs had a shot at the state title. The bus smelled like plastic seats, socks, and the lingering sugar haze from whatever breakfast junk food the guys had smuggled on. I was seated near the back, stretched out in the double row beside the emergency exit. Jaden was snoring beside me, his hoodie drawn up, headphones in. Up front, the twins were rapping along to something on TJ's phone, and Coach was pretending not to notice. I watched the cypress trees thin out as we passed New Iberia, the ground flattening into that endless green-laced water. There was no real shoulder out here, just slivers of broken concrete before the bayou pressed in again, thick with reeds and the oily shimmer of slow-moving water. We were maybe 40 minutes out of Homa when the charter shuddered hard, then gave a mechanical cough that silenced every voice on board. Coach stood up immediately. "Stay calm. Probably a belt or something." The driver, a quiet guy named Raymond with a gray ponytail and a camouflage cap, pulled over onto the only space he could, a narrow concrete sliver half submerged, tilted at an angle toward the water. I felt it the moment we stopped. The back right side dipped, a slow lean, not dangerous yet, but wrong. Raymond popped the hood and muttered something to Coach. I couldn't hear much over the cicadas, but I caught transmission and tow. Coach called us to quiet. "Listen up. Bus is not going anywhere for now. We'll get someone out here. Don't panic. Stay on board. Stay calm. No one's walking anywhere." We sat there. The sun climbed. The air conditioner sputtered and gave up. The heat came next. Thick, Louisiana heat. The kind that fills your mouth when you breathe. Someone tried to open a window and Coach snapped, "Keep them closed. We're not letting mosquitoes in." Jaden mumbled, "Man, we're gonna melt." By noon, the water had climbed half an inch up the sloped back tire. The road was built on stilts in parts, but we weren't lucky enough to be on one of those. The bayou had crept up from a week of storms, nothing biblical, just steady. Now the shoulder was a slush of moss and brackish water. Something thumped against the side of the bus. I looked out and saw the eyes first, just above the waterline. 2 of them, then 3, then more. "Alligators," Coach said, when someone pointed. "Cool," TJ said, until one of the bigger ones turned its head slowly and let its tail slap against the shallows. Coach got back on the phone, pacing in the bus aisle. "We need a tow out here. No, we're not driving it anywhere. It's dead. We've got kids on board." He ended the call and sat on the cooler up front. He was sweating through his polo. "Any luck?" Raymond asked. Coach shook his head. "They said they'll send someone, but it could be hours. Ferry crew's short-staffed. They don't want to risk bringing a flatbed out this far with the road like this." By 2, we'd shut off everything inside. The gators weren't leaving. One of them had crawled onto the narrow shoulder behind the rear axle and was just sitting there. Eyes like marbles, skin like mud armor. I counted 8 at least. Coach walked up and down the aisle every 10 minutes, pretending not to watch the waterline climb. You could hear it now, small laps against the rubber of the tire. "We're fine," he kept saying. "The water's not moving fast." But he kept checking the cooler. We had maybe 2 gallons of water bottles left and a few snack bags. Around 3:30, a flat-bottomed shrimping boat eased into view, puttering slow along the edge of the bayou. A heavy-set man in a mud-stained LSU tank top was at the wheel, one hand on a beer can. Coach jogged to the roadside, waving both arms. Hey, can you help us?" The guy cut the engine and drifted closer, sizing up the scene like he'd seen it all before. "Break down?" he shouted. "Yes, we've got a team stuck. The water's rising." The guy looked at the gators. "Ain't kidding. You're in a bad spot. Can you tow us? Anything? I ain't got a chain strong enough for that hunk, but my cousin might. He's got a flatbed and a winch." Coach exhaled. "Can you call him?" The man scratched under his beard. "Maybe. He don't come cheap." Coach frowned. "We've got some cash on board. Some food." The guy just laughed. "My cousin don't want no chips and peanut butter. He's got fuel costs. What you got worth trading?" Coach didn't answer right away. Then he motioned Raymond to open the luggage compartment. We watched as Coach pulled out the team's gear bag, jerseys, balls, first aid kit, and then, to my surprise, the box with all our school-ordered merch, hoodies, hats, embroidered duffels. "You serious?" I whispered to Jaden. But Coach was already haggling. "Brand new gear, limited edition. Bulldogs might win state this year." The shrimper leaned back and grinned. "You a good salesman." "All right, I'll go call him, but it'll take time." "How much time?" "An hour, maybe 2. Coach looked at the water again. It had started brushing the bottom step of the bus. The gator on the shoulder hadn't moved, but 2 more had taken positions closer to the front wheel. "You bring him out here. You get the gear." The man saluted with his beer. "Don't get eaten." And then he was gone. When the sun started to dip low over the trees, the heat didn't break. It turned swampy, the kind of thick where you couldn't tell if you were sweating or just absorbing moisture from the air. The gators didn't budge. They watched us like we were just part of the bayou now, part of the landscape, part of the food chain. One of the freshmen started crying. Coach told him to cut it out, but his own voice cracked. At some point, the back end of the bus gave a groan, a slow, sinking moan like something settling. Everyone went dead quiet. "We're fine," Coach said, standing. I heard the water first, trickling under the door. Then I saw it, a slow puddle curling in the aisle. Jaden stood up. "Coach." "I see it," he said. "Move everyone forward. Sit on the benches. Nobody in the back." Raymond got up too. "If this thing tips..." "It won't," Coach said. But he was pale now, sweat plastered to his face. We waited, and we watched. And just before it got dark, the boat came back. Not the same one. A bigger flatbed shrimp hauler, with a huge outboard and a rusted winch cable trailing in the water. A guy in a stained white tank top stood at the bow, already looping the chain. Coach scrambled out as the man pulled up. The gators backed off just enough for him to wade to the edge. "You the coach?" "Yes." "You got the stuff?" Coach tossed him the duffel of gear. "All of it. Just get us out." The man tied the cable to the bus's axle with a cigarette dangling from his lip. "This might yank something loose," he warned. "Hope your transmission's already busted." Coach climbed back aboard and nodded at Raymond. "Put it in neutral." The boat roared. The cable snapped tight with a whine, and then, inch by inch, the bus began to groan forward. It moved slow, real slow. The gators scattered, stirred by the churned water. I held onto the seat back, heart hammering. I could feel the back wheels dragging, caught on something. And then, freedom. The bus creaked up onto higher road, just enough to tip level again. Everyone cheered. Coach leaned out and yelled, "That's good! That's good!" The man on the boat cut the motor and gave a thumbs up. "Where to now?" Raymond asked. Coach looked down the flooded road, then back the way we came. "We head back to Lafayette. Tournament's off. Call the parents." He sat down across from me, sagging hard into the seat. "You okay?" I nodded. "You?" He chuckled dryly. "You ever see a gator wink at you? I swear that bastard was smiling." The next day, The team group chat was nothing but memes and one-liners about our swamp showdown. But nobody made fun of Coach. Not after what he traded. 3 hoodies, 6 duffels, and the only championship balls we had, just to get us out alive.